Hello and welcome to Brave Talks. And today I'm thrilled to have Patrick. So, as always, we ask our guests to introduce themselves. So, big question, who is Patrick?
Really great question. So myself, I'm Patrick Adom. I'm 40 something, so it's good to normalize aging. um, Otherwise, I'm a father, I'm a son, a brother, a cousin, a nephew, an uncle. So you might say family guy, if you will. Um, yeah,
So, I think it'd be really interesting because I know I was fascinated when you first said about your business that you created. What made you create that business and what kind of drove you down that path?
yeah. There's a couple of reasons. I think I was born in Ghana in West Africa, and I think it's not as developed as the UK in a number of different ways. And there isn't that same structure in terms of large multinationals. And so I think a lot of people have to be entrepreneurial, have to start and manage their own business, even if it's micro businesses. When I had my daughter as she grew up, um, I just felt like there wasn't a lot of like toys that mirrored her background. There wasn't a lot of content either, so it worried me, upset me to a point, but also I felt like I had several choices. One, shut up and not do anything about it because you've turned out okay, maybe, or complain and harass Disney or somebody to do something about it. Um, you know, you kind of get all the mantras, be the change and that sort of thing. And maybe I don't know, got a bit brave and thought, surely it can't be that hard, Yeah. And I kind of stumbled on jigsaw puzzles. I thought that would be a great thing to do because um, my focus was to keep her away from screens, but to have something that we could do together and kind of bond over. So that seemed like a really straightforward and manageable kind of enterprise to embark on.
What was your experience of Dragon's Den like? I have to ask. It's just out of curiosity because you see these programs, you see these activities. How was it for you?
Yeah, it was really good. It was very overwhelming, and it was very short and very brief. And it was very hurried because there's a lot of prep work in the background, and they're just like the producers are asking you for like a million and one questions. It seems, and you're having to prove, this is the company registration, this is our turnover. So you're having to do all of the really mundane, like manual stuff or menial maybe, and then you finally get onto the show and it's like, oh crap, like this could be life changing. Before going on, again, sorry to segue, but I was thinking, okay, great. I don't know if I had a dream or daydream, but I've had a thing where the day after I was taking my daughter to school, and I don't know, we had a Tesla. I don't know why a Tesla. There's other electric cars available. um, but then you could see like the parents whispering, I was and like so I had that kind of, how it would how it would play out if I'd got the funding. And then obviously I went on, and I think I performed quite well. They didn't rip into me. They were very complimentary. They understood the business. And it was just weird because obviously there's cameras and he wanted to kind of say, stop, cut, like, can we rerun this? And it's like, no, that's not life. And so that was fine. And, I got back in my car, kind of drove. And I think on my way driving home, I think the emotion and like the everything of the day and the pressure just got to me, and I literally just burst out crying on my way home. And I was like, the thing I think that got me the most was like what I learned, and out of all of that, my whole thing was I just wanted my family to be proud of me, and then just that realization just floored me, and I was just literally just weeping like a baby. And I got home, I spoke to a friend that I was seeing at the time, and then I just called my mum, and again I just burst out crying. And I think she was just like super, because I'm not an emotional person. I'm very reserved. Like I won't even give her hugs, and she's always like, I'm like, no, mum. Like, how old am I? Um, like get hugs from my daughter or something. And so I think she was worried. Obviously, mental health and everything. She was like, it's like I'm fine. I just one of those things where just constantly being on a treadmill and working so hard. And um, thing is, they're super proud of me. They love me and everything. So it wasn't even like, you've disappointed us. We hate you now.
Things. You started your business about 6 years ago, and this is while you were still a design consultant. How did you kind of balance that with working in kind of the corporate world?
I'm not sure if you ever do balance things, to be honest. The role that I did was quite involved. There was quite a bit of traveling at times. This was, pre-COVID, where we did travel more. But also, I would work from home a lot, so I didn't have the commute. So that gave me, freed me up of a lot more time. Um, and the work, as long as you got the work done, that was what mattered. So you could kind of work different hours. It wasn't your standard structured 9 to 5. So, sometimes I'll be working evenings or weekends, but then other times, you know, you don't have much going on. So then you have some time to kind of, think through things, work things out, and do other things. So just being able to work from home, having a great structure at work, having great colleagues, um, and also the company didn't frown upon people starting their own business. Um, I worked in professional services, and they even promoted, consultants' businesses. So it was an environment where you felt, okay to explore, your own passions and your own kind of, business ideas and things. So I think that helped a lot.
So, do you think the company supporting you having those business ideas was beneficial to the company as well?
I think so. I think now they say be authentic and bring your authentic self to work, and a lot of companies, it's not HR, it's people and culture. So I think companies are wired to understand that people can just go. There's just so much choice now. So it's, we need to foster people's creativity. We need to foster, um, their whatever extracurricular activities that, because they can bring new insights, new learnings, and we're always talking about, diversity in terms of diversity of thought and these things. So I think there are tangible and intangible benefits to the company. Um, just having happier employees, has measurable, benefits and turnover as well. So, it might not seem that it hits the bottom line when you're looking at spreadsheets, but I think potentially that it does. And so these are all things I think, factor in and, yeah, makes everybody happier, I think.
But what skills and traits do you think you took from either from your job, your day job, into the business, and vice versa? Things you learned in the business that you brought back into the company.
Yeah, I mean, working in I wouldn't say large corporate, but working in a corporate environment, you learn so much and you're bombarded with so much information. It's sometimes quite crazy. I know there was a series some time ago, Scandal, and it talked about gladiators in suits. And I would often, see myself in that kind of capacity because, whether it's Six Sigma, whether it's agile, whether it's design thinking, whether it's, digital, natives and, it's just, you're completely like, immersed and bombarded and kind of, really galvanized, in all that's new, all that's current, all that's cutting edge. And then also, there'll be like annual seminars with the company where you'd get like, world leading experts and, doctors and psychologists and whoever that will come in and give a speech. And so you're literally getting a TED talk in your business environment. And I'm like, wow, this is a real privilege where, you know, the business would, buy books on your behalf and, for you to read in your own time. And so you're just being honed and sharpened. So like quite deadly, I feel like sometimes you go into business and they're not ready or they're not geared towards that. And you almost have to like dial it back a bit because it's like, you're just, yeah, completely swamping them. So I feel like, I was really, really well trained, just given lots and lots of grounding, lots of information. And that really just helped me in my business and just being really focused, being really organized, process driven, just to the point where, for us, we'd have like a box drive of all of our assets. You would have like a process in terms of, from sales to onboarding handover. You'd have all of the artifacts where you spin up a project to get things done. And so just really using all of that information, using all of that knowledge, all of that process, um, it means that I'm more efficient. And then, if somebody needs something after I finish work, I can just quickly email it to them. I'm not having to, collate all of that. I can actually have my dinner and, take a breath, that sort of thing. So I think you just learn so much, at least for me, my capacity in a role that I do. I guess maybe being more entrepreneurial, maybe, being a bit more brave and kind of, putting your hands up and, you know, bringing out different ideas, as opposed to, this is the process, this is how we do things, being more willing to make suggestions and um, give that feedback. But also, the other thing that kind of struck me was I'd go into businesses and I'm the consultant. They're looking to me, as the guy with the knowledge, the guy that's going to, cure all of their woes, as it were. Um, and it felt like it was good to apply some of what I was preaching, as it were, and be able to kind of do it, even in a small scale down version, to be able to, kind of walk the walk, as it were, because I feel sometimes as a consultant, you're given information, you're just regurgitating when you haven't actually kind of, you know, been in the line of fire, as it were. So I think having that real world experience kind of gives a bit more, I don't know if it's kudos is the word, but credence to what you're talking about. And so you've kind of lived what you're preaching. So yeah.
How has it affected your career? I mean, obviously, running your own business and working. I mean, most people struggle with just one job. How has it been for you? What's been the pluses and the minuses?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. And you have to decide, like, to take your foot off the gear, foot off the accelerator. And so often, with the business, it's like, okay, I can't do this on the weekends, or I can't do, because I'm going to be too tired, or um, yeah, I can't go to this conference because I really have so much holiday and that. So you have to make those sacrifices. But then at the same time, I think it just makes you think, okay, how can I automate the business more? Um, how can I put in place processes and standard operating standard operating procedures so that somebody else can kind of pick it up, or I can delegate, or I can, find somebody that will go to the conference that, I can give them all of the sales pitch and everything so they can actually go in, and stand in for me, that sort of thing. So, um, yeah, so just using those pain points to think, okay, actually, I want to be able to automate the business more. So then, I can be on a beach somewhere in Bermuda or wherever it might be, and let it run itself. So I'm not having to be there, because I'm not sure what the saying is, but yeah, it needs to be able to operate without you,
Yeah.
being hands on, as it were. So, but in terms of career, no impacts, I believe, negative anyway. And again, I think the learning from work that I can use in my business, and then applying that practically in my business, and then the learnings I can then use back in work. I think it's quite a great opportunity for me, and I think, yeah, it helps, as you said, lend credibility when I speak to customers.
Obviously, with all this happening and balancing life and work and businesses, how did you manage your mental health? Because it's a strain on most people to, as I said, with one job, to continue that with these multiple businesses and family. So that's a strain as well.
Yeah, very much. It is challenging, and I'm not always the best person to ask for help or seek help and advice. I think I'm learning to do that a bit more. Um, I think that's the one thing that I've learned over the last couple of years. Just being open to ask for help. And sometimes it's just a case of, you know, I want to automate my emails, and just pushing it out to people, what would you suggest, as opposed to spending days, weeks, like researching all of the different options. Um, but yeah, it is a challenge, because, and it depends. Sometimes, everything's going well, and other times maybe you've got a difficult project, a difficult customer. Um, and then also you've got targets you might have set yourself in a business, and it's like the work's challenging within the corporate environment, and then the work's challenging within the business environment, and it feels like, I can't catch a break here. Um, But I think with a lot of these things, I think projects in work have they're projects. They have um, a shelf life, as it were. There's a start and an end. So it's a case of getting through it. Asking for help with colleagues, putting your hands up. I've done everything I can with this customer. These are the issues we're encountering. Is there anybody that can kind of bring any resources to bear that can kind of help with this customer? And then with the business, it's just a case of just continually going, okay, these are the roadblocks. What are the options? This is what's gone wrong. What lessons can be learned from that? um and yeah, I think being a consultant, I think you're always thinking, the gears are always going on or always turning, so you're always trying to find solutions, and that's my role principally, right? What are the solutions? How do we navigate these challenges? um and I quite enjoy that, like, it's not a problem, it's a challenge. Okay, how do we overcome, and how do we get to a better position? But I think mental health is just something, wouldn't say it's here to stay because that sounds bad, but it's just the modern world. We're just bombarded with so much, whether it's social media, if you are on social media, whether it's, I don't know, like aging parents or young, children. There's just a lot of things that, and things don't always go right. And so how do you deal with that? How do you, accept, situations, whether it's ill health or, like cost of living and finances and things. It, it's not easy. How have I remained sane? Not sure I have fully, but I have quite a lot of plants at home, and so trying to keep them alive kind of gives me something. And then the other things is, I used to run. I don't run as much, but that would always kind of, you're just too tired to think about anything else, right? So that's always good physical exhaustion. And then the other thing was reading. Again, I've only just started doing it again more. Um, but that always, takes you out of your own head, as it were. So those are my own personal things. And then I've got a young daughter, and you know, she talks a lot. So yeah, just nodding and saying yes and asking her questions and letting her just barrage me with her day and kind of her angst and things, and it kind of puts things into perspective.
I mean, it must have helped that you kind of initiated this whole endeavor because of your daughter as well. So actually seeing her and seeing the results of what you did, that must be a benefit as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you always have to remind yourself the why. And that's always a big thing. And sometimes I'm extremely ungrateful, I think. And you always forget like how far you've come. And it's something that we was always encouraged to um, relate to our customers in terms of you come in, you put in the system, and then oh, but what about this? It's like, well, you was doing everything paper based like 5 weeks ago, and you didn't have an approval you'd have to come into the office. I'm saving you time here, like you've got a bit. And it's, oh yeah, actually, yeah. And look at the improvements you've made. Actually, you're not sending things on a Word document via email and losing track of, it's you can work remotely now, you don't have, and so just because of the pace of change, you quickly forget, like, how things were before, what improvements you've made. So, but yeah, back to your question, yeah, having my daughter as the catalyst and as the inspiration is, yeah, really humbling as well, because hopefully she's got opportunities now where, yeah, I'm not sure I want to run the business, Dad. Maybe I'll hire somebody. Oh, thanks. Okay. All my hard work here. But at least you've got that as an option, right? And you can do that. So, whatever you might want to do. Yeah. And I think the more I communicate with her, like, just the segue, I think we were playing, I don't know, a year or two ago sometime, um, like playing shops or whatever it was. And she was like, oh, yeah, started talking about Trustpilot reviews as part of the game. I'm like, why? Where did you pick Trust? It's like, oh yeah, sorry. I'm like, when did I show you that? Why did we do this? Like, but yeah, I don't know. consciously or subconsciously, she's picking up things and she's learning things, and I'm hoping that she's learning good things, and it's not like this poor guy is very stressed and is working all hours of the day, maybe, but it's more actually, there's a process, and if you believe in yourself and you work towards it, and you take the steps, then yeah, there'll be rewards, and yeah, there'll be good things at the end. So, but it's just funny, she picks up on things. I'm like, that's not, Trustpilot's not something you should be picking up on. I mean, there's other sites out there, but yeah, social proof and all of that, I guess. So yeah, it's interesting.
If somebody else was kind of thinking of doing this sort of thing, what message of support would you give them?
Don't do it. Not really. I guess there's a couple of things, and a lot of the advice is very cliched, very generic, but it's really just to believe in yourself. That's something that somebody told me a long time ago, and it sounds like the most simplest thing, but you literally have to believe in yourself, and like, as they say, maybe like back yourself, and put yourself out there. But also be yourself, because I think a lot of the time is maybe we hide, or we're not our authentic selves, but you have to be yourself. And then there was a third, I forgot. But I think those are the two key things. The third is, it potentially will be a long journey, and so just be prepared for that. I don't think I was fully prepared. So yeah, be prepared for it to potentially take longer and cost more than you think it will.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing your story,
No problem.
and hopefully we'll see a massive successful business the next phase.
Absolutely.
Look
Hoping
forward
for
to
that.
it.
Fingers crossed.
Thank you for joining us today, and join us for future Brave Talks.